everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cubica AMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. I am your host, Orly, and I have a returning guest today. And if you listened to the last show, I gave a little preview that Lance would be back today. We have Lance Rasmussen. Did I get it again?
Almost. It's
Almost.
Rasmussen.
Okay. So you want to go ahead and let everyone know what you do with CDE Software?
Sure. I'm the president of CDE Software. I've been around for almost 30 years, and I'm also one of the developers, as well as I manage a lot of the tech support, in particular with bowling centers. So I know a lot of folks that are probably listening. You've probably talked with me at one point or another with BLS with your questions or how a league can be done with BLS. So
today what we want to talk about, what has been your most common league issues? What are some issues that people come across, and how can they take care of these things?
Sure. First off, I'd probably say in regards to the BLS software, sometimes we found that a center has upgraded one of their computers, or a center has upgraded from Conquer Pro to Conquer X, for example. Different situations there where they need to configure BLS so that BLS and the front desk software are essentially pointing to each other so that when BLS exports the rosters, Conquer can find the information. And then likewise, when Conquer's done with the league, report back the scores so that BLS can pick them up. So the biggest thing is in BLS, there is a screen where you adjust those particular paths. And it's just the import path, the export path, and then also a pathway to the front desk. And so it's very easy to adjust. Out of the box, BLS finds the most common setting used. And so most of the time, you never even have to think about it. BLS just works with Conquer. But in those rare cases, it's easy to give a call to either the Cubica AMF support team or call our support team, myself. And it's easy to go through to verify kind of what needs to be set there.
Okay.
Probably another common league issue we found, and this is usually every August, later August is when we release our major new version of BLS. So at the end of this month in August, we're going to be releasing the BLS 2025. When you install the new BLS, we actually, at the end of the installation, bring up a wizard that asks, what would you like to bring from the previous BLS over to the new BLS? And such as leagues. Hey, would you like me to copy all the leagues from BLS 2024 over to the new BLS 25? Well, the obvious answer is yes, please. It's pretty rare to say no. But once you're done, you should only be using the new BLS, such as BLS 25. You can certainly use the older BLS 24 for reference, but once you've moved to the new BLS, just stick with it. However, we found that muscle memory comes into place a lot of times where I always just move my mouse and click this icon that's up in this particular spot, not realizing that they've been double clicking on the old BLS icon and not the new one. And we don't remove them automatically because we do have folks who do like to have those icons on their desktop to get at these older programs too. But it's just important to always make sure that you're using the new one. And what we found is that sometimes a processor puts in the new BLS, muscle memory takes into place. They're running and opening the old BLS until 4, 5, 6 weeks down the road, they realize their mistake. Oops, wrong program. So they open up
that's like when you change your phone number and somebody's like, I've been texting you or calling you. I'm like, is it the new number or are you doing the old one still?
Yes.
Delete that old one out of there.
Very much. And so what happens is in BLS when they go to, whoops. So they actually now launch the new BLS. Well, wait a minute here. I found my league, but it doesn't have any scores. or it only had 1 week worth of scores. What happened to all these other weeks? Well, you were using the old program and the league data is there, so you're out of sync. That's, so you're going to have to kind of manage that situation. But we usually recommend just deleting any of the old shortcuts off the desktop. It's not going to remove the program when you do that, but it does remove it being easy to make that mistake.
Gotcha.
Probably another thing that we get a lot of calls about is dealing with buy teams. In a perfect world, we're always going to have an even number of teams in a league. But occasionally, sometimes a center is able to grab a new team, either at the beginning of the season or maybe a few weeks into the season, they're able to recruit a team. Well, which is great if they can do that. And sadly, sometimes we find during the season that a team needs to drop out for whatever reason. So in BLS, we have the ability to designate the name that you're going to use for the buy team. Well, BLS, with people getting really creative with team names these days, BLS doesn't have any idea which is a real team and which is a buy team. And so the best way to do this is in the rules, we have a spot, and out of the box, it's called BYE for buy team. And so as long as you name your team in the team rosters BYE, and it matches what the rule says as BYE, then BLS says, oh, I need to treat this as a buy team and follow whatever rules you designated in BLS to manage the buy. Now, around the country, we found that some centers or leagues always refer to their buy team as the ghost team, the vacant team, the dummies, the goners, nobodies, and that's great. You can be creative. It's just remember, you need to set the rules to match whatever creative name you're going to use for what you do in the roster. And when you do that, of course, then BLS is going to treat that as a buy team.
Okay. I mean, I don't know why a center would use that name. I think a team would want to use dummies. That's kind of a cool name.
It is. And I've seen occasionally some pretty creative team names, and sometimes it's the stupids or whatever else. Yeah, I don't know. It gets pretty interesting with that.
That's just like, yeah, and when you're in a center, when you start to see some teenagers looking back at the front desk, quite often I'm like, okay, what'd they do? Let me look up at their names to see if they put something inappropriate or something.
Yeah, so there's been some very colorful adjectives used for buy teams we found occasionally there. But again, I call it what you want, doesn't matter, but do make sure that it matches in the rules.
Okay.
Probably lastly, for this session, for a good tip is a feature that BLS added a few years ago called fixed rosters. And fixed rosters is a great feature where a league processor may say, I always want to have bowler A, bowler B, and bowler C on this team, always in this order when I advance to the next week. Now, in week 2 or 3 or 4, maybe the team wants to make it in the order of bowler C, B, and A, but only for that week. And that's fine. BLS supports that very easily. But when you advance to the next week, we want it to go back to A, B, and C, so I don't have to think about having to manually make the order turn back. So BLS has a feature where you can say, I want to use fixed rosters. In the team rosters, you set up that rosters to be in the order of bowler A, B, and C. And then there's a button that appears that says, do you want to save this fixed roster in A, B, and C order? Yes, please. And then I'll go to each team, move them around appropriately, and save that roster. So this works great. Problem is sometimes we found at the start of the new season, if the center has restarted the league for the next season, like we talked about in the previous tech tip, there you may have some changes. Maybe Bowler B dropped out of the team, and so we brought in Bowler D to join this team, and we want him in that Bowler B place or position. Well, when the fixed rosters doesn't have any idea about this Bowler D, because last time we saved it, it was Bowler A, B, and C. So then what happens is like recap sheets. Why is there this gap here? I don't get it. And it's because BLS is still remembering this Bowler B in the position. So the easy resolution is just remember that when you are going back in week one, or even during the season, if you need to make a permanent change in your order, be sure to go make your change and click Save Default Roster. Now BLS is going to say, okay, it needs to be Bowler A, D, and then C in that order. And then that corrects kind of, again, this is something we find periodically, get a phone call, very easy resolution to do. It's not a bug or anything. It's just, as we say, sometimes a problem between the keyboard and the chair. And it sometimes happens.
Okay. Well, I know earlier you mentioned an email. Do you have an email that you can give to the listeners if they do have an issue?
Absolutely. So our tech support email is simply help@cdesoftware.com. And we also have a support website, which is support.cdesoftware.com, where you can get, we have a knowledge base that you can search on for frequently asked questions and the answers to those. We also have an online community where new league processors or even experienced ones, if you have a question of, say, I want to try to run this league because they have these really bizarre rules, and I'm not sure if this is a good idea. The community is a great place to post it, because then other league processors that use BLS can simply answer, as well as our team, to go and say, hey, that's a great idea, or, well, BLS or any league software is really not gonna do that. I don't recommend it. So definitely it's a great thing. And there's an online chat as well too, so you can directly interact with our support team during our office hours. And we're here in beautiful Seattle here, so we are on the West Coast time zone.
Okay. And you're going to, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but that group might be the perfect place for you to share this show,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And speaking of sharing the show, if you're a new listener, if you stumbled across the show, or if you listen every week, make sure you're sharing the show and other episodes with your coworkers, your management team, or if you are the management team, then your employees, or, your owners even. There's so much great things here to help out. And like you said, there's on your website, there's a frequently asked questions. And that's basically what we are here. Sometimes before making that phone call or having to Google around, just come listen to the show, and we give great information to be able to help you with issues that, might not be as hard as you think. And you could just, kind of fix them yourself. It makes things easier sometimes. So again, Lance, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. And if you didn't listen to the previous show with Lance, make sure to go back and listen to that show. And until next time, we will talk to everyone soon.